No wife, no kids, no life. My brother's family declared at Christmas, taking my savings. Just a waste of space. They all nodded. I smiled and left. 3 days later, my voicemail was full of their desperate pleas. I never thought I'd be posting here, but after what happened at our family Christmas gathering, I need to get this off my chest. Fair warning. This might be long, but I'm still processing everything. You know that moment when you walk into a room and everyone suddenly goes quiet? That's how my Christmas morning started. I arrived at my mom's house around 10 a.m., exactly when she asked me to come, only to find everyone else had already been there for hours. The tree was surrounded by open presents, breakfast dishes were being cleared, and my brother Andrew's son Christian was already deep into playing with his new games. The first red flag should have been how they didn't wait, even though Mom specifically told me 10 a.m. This was our first Christmas without Dad, who passed away in October, and everything felt off kilter. Mom hugged me tightly, but there was something strained in her smile. My sister-in-law Gabriella barely looked up from her phone, just muttered, "Oh, you made it," like I was some distant acquaintance who'd crashed their intimate gathering. I set my gifts down by the tree, trying to ignore the awkwardness. Christian, bless him, actually seemed happy to see me, jumping up to show me his new gaming setup. That kid's always been a bright spot in family gatherings. But then Andrew cut in, "Don't bother Uncle Dominic. He probably doesn't understand these things anyway. Too busy with his, whatever it is he does." The dig wasn't subtle. I've done well for myself, working remotely for a tech company while traveling when I want. Dad always supported my choices, even when they didn't fit the traditional path Andrew took. But since Dad's passing, the comments about my lifestyle have gotten more frequent and pointed. Things really started going sideways during lunch. Mom made Dad's traditional Christmas roast, the first time since he passed, and everyone was unusually quiet until Gabriella decided to break the silence. "So Dominic, any special someone in your life yet? You know, at your age, you really should be thinking about settling down. Christian needs cousins his age." Before I could answer, Andrew chimed in, "Oh, he's too busy living the bachelor life. No wife, no kids, no real life, right?" He laughed, but there was an edge to it. The way everyone else at the table either nodded or looked away told me this wasn't the first time they'd discussed my life choices. I kept my cool, focused on my food. "My life is pretty full actually. I'm happy with my choices." "Full of what?" Gabriella pressed, setting down her fork. "Working all day behind a screen. Traveling to empty hotel rooms. That's not living, that's just existing. You're wasting your potential. Your father would have wanted." "Don't." My voice came out sharper than intended. "Don't tell me what Dad would have wanted." The tension at the table could have been cut with a knife. Mom tried to change the subject, asking about New Year's plans, but Andrew wasn't done. "You know what? No, we need to talk about this. The will reading is next week, and we need to be realistic here." He leaned forward, lowering his voice like he was sharing some profound wisdom. "You've got all this money saved up, no responsibilities, while we're trying to give Christian the best life possible. It's not fair." That's when I noticed Mom's expression, guilt. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "What do you mean, we need to be realistic?" I asked, though I was starting to put the pieces together. Gabriella jumped in, her voice sickly sweet. "We've had some expenses. Christian's private school, the house renovations Dad promised to help with before he, we had to borrow against what we knew was coming from the will." My stomach dropped. "Borrow? From where?" The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Mom spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. "Your portion, honey. They needed it. You have so much saved already, and they have a family to think about." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "You took money from my inheritance, without asking me." "Borrowed," Andrew corrected, as if that made it better. "And honestly, what were you going to do with it anyway? You're just a waste of space in this family. No real connections, no one depending on you. Just floating through life while the rest of us deal with real responsibilities." Everyone nodded. Even Mom, though she looked pained doing it. The only one who looked uncomfortable was Christian, who had stopped eating and was staring at his plate. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. The room went quiet again, everyone probably expecting an explosion. Instead I smiled. "Thank you for lunch, Mom. I need to go." "Oh, don't be dramatic," Gabriella started, but I was already walking out. Behind me, I could hear Andrew saying something about me always running away from confrontation. I drove home in a daze. By the time I reached my apartment, my phone was already lighting up with messages, mostly from Mom, saying we needed to talk things through as a family. One from Andrew telling me to man up and face reality. I haven't responded to any of them yet. Instead, I called Dad's lawyer and left a message. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to find out exactly what they've done with my inheritance and what they mean by borrowing. The worst part? I keep thinking about Dad's last conversation with me, just a week before he passed. He made me promise to take care of the family, but also to stand my ground. At the time, I thought he was just rambling from the medication. Now I'm wondering if he knew something like this would happen. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I know I can't let this stand. Not just for the money, but for everything it represents. They want to talk about real life and responsibilities. Fine. Let's talk. My phone's still buzzing. I think I'll let it ring for a while longer. Update. First, thank you all for the supportive comments on my last post. I wasn't expecting such an overwhelming response. A lot has happened in the last 48 hours, and honestly, I'm still trying to process everything. What I discovered goes way deeper than I initially thought. Yesterday morning, I met with Dad's lawyer, Mr. Wilson. He seemed unsurprised to see me, which was my first clue that something wasn't right. I've been expecting your call, he said, pulling out a thick folder. Your father left specific instructions about this situation. Turns out, Dad knew. He knew everything. The meeting started with Mr. Wilson showing me a series of loan documents, all with my name on them. My signature had been forged on at least 6 different papers over the past year. Each one had withdrawn money from my portion of the inheritance, which Dad had apparently left in a trust. The total amount? Just over $285,000. I felt sick looking at those signatures. They weren't even good forgeries. But here's where it gets interesting. Mr. Wilson pulled out another document. Dad's real will, dated just 2 weeks before he passed. Your father amended this after a concerning conversation with your brother, he explained. Then he showed me the bank statements. Andrew and Gabriella are broke. Not just struggling, but drowning in debt. The private school they brag about? Haven't paid tuition in months. Their house renovations? Mostly funded by credit cards. They've been living way beyond their means for years, using Dad's declining health as leverage to borrow money. While Mr. Wilson was explaining this, my phone kept buzzing. I finally checked it during a break. 27 missed calls, 15 voicemails, dozens of texts, some choice excerpts. Andrew, you're being selfish. Christian's future is at stake here. Gabriella, your father would be ashamed of your behavior. Mom, please honey, we need to talk this through. They made mistakes but they're family. The most surprising message was from Christian. Uncle Dom, I'm sorry about Christmas. Dad and Mom were wrong to say those things. That hit hard. Kid's only 12 but seems to understand more than his parents. Mr. Wilson then revealed Dad's masterstroke. The amended will has specific conditions. Any money taken through unauthorized loans must be repaid before anyone can access their full inheritance. And here's the kicker. Dad left me in charge of overseeing the repayment plan. Your father was very clear about this, Mr. Wilson said, showing me Dad's handwritten letter. He wrote, Dominic understands the value of money and responsibility better than anyone gives him credit for. He'll make the right choices. Just as we were wrapping up, Mr. Wilson dropped another bombshell. There's something else you should know, he said, pulling out one final document. Your brother approached me last month, trying to have you declared financially irresponsible. He wanted control over your entire portion of the inheritance. That explained the recent comments about my lifestyle and travels. They weren't just being judgmental, they were building a case against me. As I left the office, another voicemail came in. This time it was Gabriella, her voice shaking. We need to talk. There are things you don't understand. The school is threatening to remove Christian if we don't pay by next week. Please, we can work something out. I sat in my car for a long time, reading through Dad's letter again. Near the end he wrote, Son, they'll try to use guilt. They'll call you selfish. Remember, real responsibility isn't about giving in to demands, it's about making tough choices for the right reasons. The next paragraph caught me off guard. Check the garage at the old house. Bottom shelf, behind the paint cans. I left something there you'll need. I drove to Dad's house. Well, Mom's house now. No one was home, which was a relief. The garage was exactly as Dad left it, his tools still arranged with military precision. Behind the paint cans, I found a small fireproof safe. The combination was my birthday. Inside was another letter, several USB drives, and a detailed ledger of every loan Andrew had taken over the years. Not just from my inheritance, but from Dad too. The amounts were staggering. The letter started with, if you're reading this, they finally pushed too far. Here's everything you need to protect yourself and help them learn. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. They're coming over tomorrow morning. Please come. We need to sort this as a family. I looked at the safe's contents spread out on my desk, then at Dad's letter. The final line read, Sometimes love means standing firm. You're stronger than they think you are. Tomorrow's meeting should be interesting. I've made copies of everything and sent them to Mr. Wilson for safekeeping. I'm done being the family pushover, but I'm also not out for revenge. Dad trusted me to handle this right, and that's what I'm going to do. The most recent text is from Christian. Are you coming tomorrow? I hope you do. Someone needs to tell them the truth. Out of all the messages, that's the one I'm choosing to focus on. I'll update again after tomorrow's meeting. Something tells me it's going to be a turning point for everyone involved. Update 2. I should have known something was off when I pulled up to Mom's house this morning and saw 3 extra cars in the driveway. Andrew hadn't just brought Gabriella. He'd brought reinforcements. Our Aunt Linda, Uncle Pete, and our family friend who's a financial advisor were all sitting in the living room like some kind of intervention panel. The first words out of Andrew's mouth set the tone. Good, you're here. Now we can discuss how to fix the mess you're making of this family. I almost laughed. Really? This was their play? Mom was hovering nervously in the kitchen doorway, already clutching a tissue. Gabriella sat perfectly poised on the couch, makeup done like she was heading to a business meeting instead of a family confrontation. Christian was nowhere to be seen, probably sent to a friend's house to avoid the drama. I took Dad's old armchair, the one by the window. Something about sitting in his spot gave me strength. I didn't say anything, just waited. Andrew's always hated silence. It makes him nervous. Sure enough, he started filling the void. We've been talking. He gestured to the room. And we think you're not seeing the bigger picture here. Dad's will. It's causing unnecessary strain. We have a proposal. Their financial advisor friend pulled out some papers. That's when I noticed the logo. It was from the same firm that manages the mortgage on Mom's house. Interesting. The proposal was exactly what you'd expect. They wanted to restructure the inheritance. Basically, they'd get immediate access to their full portion, plus temporary control of my share to help manage family assets more efficiently. In return, they'd set up a repayment plan for the loans, starting in 5 years. I let them finish their pitch. Then I pulled out Dad's ledger. Before we go further, I said, let's talk about the Mountain View property. The room went dead quiet. Aunt Linda suddenly found her coffee very interesting. For those asking in the comments, Mountain View was Dad's rental property. 3 units, fully paid off, steady income. He left it to Mom in the will. At least that's what everyone thought. The Mountain View property isn't relevant here, Andrew said quickly. Too quickly. I opened the ledger to a marked page. Really? Because according to this, you took out a second mortgage on it 8 months ago. Used Mom's power of attorney while Dad was in the hospital. Did you tell her about that, Andrew? Mom's tissue fell to the floor. What is he talking about? It was temporary. Gabriella jumped in. We needed capital for an investment opportunity. It's all under control. Under control. I turned to their financial advisor friend. Is that why the property is in pre-foreclosure? That's when Mom started crying. Not quiet tears, deep harsh sobs that made everyone flinch. My units. Brooks and I bought those when we first got married. Our retirement plan. Andrew shot me a look of pure hatred. You had no right to go digging into private family matters. Private? Like forging my signature on loans? Or like the 3 credit cards you opened in Mom's name? More silence. The financial advisor started gathering his papers. That's different. Andrew's voice had an edge of desperation now. We were protecting the family's interests. You've never understood what that means. You just travel around, no responsibilities, while we lost $500,000 in online trading. I cut in. Borrowed against every asset you could find. Maxed out Christian's college fund. Gabriella stood up suddenly. You sanctimonious little. You think you're so perfect? At least we're trying to build something. What do you have? Empty apartments in different cities. Photos of places nobody cares about. I have no debt, I said quietly. And I have Dad's trust. That's when a small voice came from the stairs. Is it true about my college fund? Everyone turned. Christian sat on the middle step, clutching his phone. He must have been listening the whole time. Honey, go to your room, Gabriella started, but Christian cut her off. I recorded everything, he said, his voice shaking. From the start. Uncle Dom wasn't lying about them stealing, was he? The next few minutes were chaos. Gabriella crying, Andrew yelling, Mom still sobbing about Mountain View. Aunt Linda and Uncle Pete slipped out during the confusion. The financial advisor handed me his card before leaving. Turns out he'd been trying to warn the family about Andrew's schemes for months. Christian came and sat next to me in the midst of it all. Just quietly took the armrest of Dad's chair. It was such a small gesture, but it felt massive. Finally, when everyone had shouted themselves hoarse, I pulled out the last document. Dad's amended will with the repayment conditions. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Mountain View goes into immediate trust management to stop the foreclosure. All credit cards in Mom's name are canceled. Christian's remaining college fund is frozen in a new account only he can access at 18. And you two? I looked at Andrew and Gabriella. Start mandatory financial counseling next week. Or what? Andrew spat. Or I take this folder of forged documents to the police. More silence. Mom finally spoke up, her voice rough from crying. The units, can they be saved? Yes, I assured her. Dad left enough in the estate to cover it, but Andrew and Gabriella have to agree to the terms. All of them. I passed out copies of the repayment plan. As they read, my phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Wilson. Your father would be proud. Meeting tomorrow to finalize everything. Before anyone could argue further, Christian spoke up again. Dad, just sign it, please. I don't want to have to show everyone at school what you really did. Andrew's face went pale. The recording. His own son. Gabriella signed first. Andrew followed, his hand shaking with either rage or shame. Probably both. As I drove home, the messages started flooding in. Threats from Andrew. Tearful apologies from Mom. A long text from Christian asking if he could come stay with me for a few days until things calm down. Tomorrow we meet with Mr. Wilson to make everything official. But something tells me this isn't over. Andrew's too proud, Gabriella's too desperate, and there's 20 years of family dynamics to untangle. At least now everyone knows the truth, even if they didn't want to hear it. Final update. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and I've been waiting to post this until everything was finalized. What happened wasn't just a resolution. It was a complete dismantling of my brother's carefully constructed facade. Some might call it karma. I call it justice. The morning after our family meeting, Andrew made his fatal mistake. He tried to empty Mom's accounts, all of them. What he didn't know was that I'd already frozen everything the night before. His attempted theft triggered exactly what I'd hoped for: an automatic fraud alert and an immediate investigation. Here's where Dad's foresight really shines. Those USB drives he left in the garage safe. They contained years of recorded conversations. Dad had been documenting everything. Every loan request, every lie, every manipulation. The last recording was from his hospital bed, Andrew desperately trying to get him to sign over power of attorney while heavily medicated. Mr. Wilson helped me execute the plan perfectly. First, we submitted all evidence of the forged signatures to the relevant authorities. Then we exposed the credit card fraud. The look on Andrew's face when the investigators showed up at his office was apparently priceless. One of his colleagues emailed me the security footage. Gabriella tried damage control, calling everyone in their social circle with tales of how I was destroying the family. But remember that financial advisor from our last meeting? Turns out he'd been keeping his own records of their schemes. When he presented evidence that they'd been running a small investment scam in their social circle, their friends turned on them faster than sharks smelling blood. The school situation resolved itself in the most ironic way possible. Christian, my brave nephew, had forwarded all his recordings to the school board. Not only did they grant him emergency financial aid, but they also opened an investigation into the donations Andrew and Gabriella had been claiming on their taxes. Spoiler alert, those donations never existed. Mom finally got to see their true colors when Andrew, in desperation, tried to pin everything on her. He claimed she had authorized all the loans and credit cards. That's when I played my trump card. Dad's final video message, recorded a week before he passed, detailing exactly how Andrew had manipulated and stolen from both our parents for years. The Mountain View property? Saved and restructured. Mom's retirement? Secured. Christian's college fund? Not only recovered but tripled, thanks to Dad's secret investment account that Andrew never knew about. The best part? It had been earmarked specifically for Christian since he was born. But the real satisfaction came from an unexpected source. Remember Aunt Linda, who sat silently during our family meeting? She finally came clean about why she'd protected Andrew for so long. He'd been blackmailing her with manufactured evidence of tax fraud. When we exposed that lie, she provided years of emails showing how Andrew had systematically manipulated and exploited every family member. The dominoes fell beautifully. Andrew's firm suspended him pending investigation. Their country club membership was revoked. Apparently, they'd been charging thousands to other members' accounts. Their dream house is in foreclosure. Their social circle has completely ostracized them. 3 of their friends have filed lawsuits over the investment scam. Gabriella's final attempt at redemption backfired spectacularly. She tried to hold a press conference. Yes, really, to paint herself as a victim of circumstances. That's when Christian, my brilliant nephew, released the group chat screenshots showing her actively planning to exploit more family members. They're moving out of their house next week, downsizing to a small apartment across town. Christian chose to stay with me temporarily, with full legal backing thanks to Mr. Wilson's connections. The court was particularly interested in the recording of Andrew threatening to make him pay for exposing their schemes. Mom's doing better now. Yesterday, she helped me sort through Dad's old office and found a letter he'd written to me years ago. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face the consequences of their actions, it said. Rock bottom has a way of building foundations for better things. The family dynamics have shifted permanently. Most relatives have cut ties with Andrew and Gabriella. Those who haven't are keeping their distance. Mom hosts Sunday dinners now. Smaller, quieter affairs without the cloud of manipulation hanging over them. The real victory? Christian's transformation. Free from his parents' influence, he's thriving. His grades are up, he's making genuine friends, and yesterday he told me he wants to study finance. To help people, not hurt them, as he put it. As for me, I've bought the Mountain View property from Mom, at full market value, everything legitimate and documented. I'm converting it into affordable housing units, with a strict policy against allowing Andrew or Gabriella to ever rent there. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Dad's final message keeps playing in my mind. Son, sometimes love means watching someone lose everything they stole, so they can find something real to build on. Andrew and Gabriella are facing multiple investigations, civil lawsuits, and complete social isolation. Their house of cards didn't just fall, it burned. And I made sure to document every moment of its collapse. The family thinks I'm done. They're wrong. I've set up a trust fund for Christian that Andrew and Gabriella can never touch, even after he turns 18. Every penny they stole will be repaid. With interest, through wage garnishment if necessary. Their reputation in this town is destroyed not through rumors or lies, but through the simple exposure of their own actions. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just watching someone fall. It's making sure they can never rebuild their facade again. Christian's staying with me through the school year. Last night, he asked if we could frame Dad's last letter in his new room. To remind me, he said, that doing the right thing matters more than looking right. Seems like Dad's legacy will live on after all. Just not through the son he was expected to choose.